Welcome to another episode of Next Medical Affairs. Our today's guest is a very special colleague and partner of Next, who is very well known for fresh ideas, does a lot of charity work, and is passionate about every single step to make pharma a better place. Welcome, Emma Booth, and really glad for having you today. Emma, how are you doing? And did you have your morning run?
Hi, Dario. I'm great. And yes, I got my daily dose of running in today, so I feel very refreshed.
Today's conversation is crafted around the importance of change management in medical affairs, how to align things from the human side. So, my first question is, as someone who is a great expert in medical affairs, how do you explain that medical affairs transformed from a supporting department to a standalone necessity, which is very critical nowadays for pharma?
I think that's a great question. So, really driven through by the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw that shift in medical practice with healthcare professionals, prioritizing the time that they had available for, company representatives, and it shifted somewhat to the medical side. And that availability and time of physicians and other stakeholders has somewhat continued to remain at a lower level. So we have to ensure that every engagement is therefore providing them the value that they want and meeting their needs. Medical affairs has always been that cornerstone between the internal and the external part of the organization and the environment. And it's also been, a kind of pillar of information and education. And what we've seen is that shift from being purely, or not purely, but somewhat a supporting function, and enabling in discussion on clinical trials or medical evidence generation or these sorts of things, and actually becoming that greater translator of the science, and really becoming that true strategic partner for the cross-functional team within the company.
You speak a lot about change management in medical affairs. What are those changes which you see are just upcoming?
It's another great question, and one that really excites me. I think we're in this point of real change. So we've got the ability and the mental sort of thought and awareness of what might be possible. But at the same time, we're at that point where the capability, what's available from a technology perspective, they're really coming together nicely. And really, we're living in a time where the only thing that is constant is change. And we used to anticipate that there would always be peaks and troughs, and we would be on that, upwards and downwards journey of accepting this. But really now it seems to be this continuous cycle, which, while being exhausting for people, is also incredibly exciting because there is so much opportunity, and the transformation is really needed, and it will offer so many benefits to patients ultimately. Some of the things that are exciting me and where I see medical affairs going is that I think there are going to have to be a lot more patient-centered solutions and discussions. Obviously, the medical affairs teams are not having those discussions directly with patients, but they're enabling the physicians and other healthcare professionals to do so. So there will be this core change in dialogue that will need to help our MSLs or our medical information colleagues to be able to talk about other topics such as precision medicine, personalized treatment, and so on. And that also follows into one of the next things that excites me, which is the evolution and continual evolution, but also adoption of digital tools, these wearables, these apps, the health companion accessories, or so on. And we're seeing they're growing in importance. What medical's role, I think, will be here is keeping that check and sense on the sort of situation, because we need to ensure that it does ultimately add value to the patient and the healthcare professional. We had this example, and I think this was something that was talked about actually at your next meeting last year, was that there was a patient that someone was aware of, and they had a certain illness, and they were receiving, I think, 7 different medications as a result. And they were also receiving 7 different forms and apps and things to fill in and complete. So that certainly wasn't, enabling them to be, on a better journey through their course of disease. So I think we need to, medical will be, I think, a good sense check in that role. And I think, we need to ensure that we're not just measuring something because we can, but it's actually providing additional support to the patient and what we're trying to achieve ultimately. And then the other thing I think is the exciting part is actually transforming discussion around healthcare. So real world evidence continues to be more and more important. And we're going to be able to have different value discussions as a result. An exciting part of this is this 2030 ambition for Europe, where it's the European or the Europe's digital decade, where the ambition is that all patients will have their digital information, healthcare information available to them. And it will be interesting to see how that is then made available to either academia or other research partners that can then use that to better understand either the sort of the disease, underlying disease, or comorbidities and these sorts of things. So I think this is really truly an exciting time for medical affairs.
How do you properly align medical affairs into a pharma company? And what are those foundations which should be met to keep the purpose of medical affairs in the science?
Yes, keeping the medical affairs alignment, I think, is paramount to success. And I think ultimately it does start with having a great leader, one that is focused and has a crystal clear strategy and vision that they can share and articulate with the rest of the organization. I think although none of us are irreplaceable, strong leadership is important to enable the medical affairs teams to go faster, to go further, and to really transform or continue on that path of innovation. And this clear vision, this clear North Star, it creates that symphony of the teams working together. So where you see all of the capabilities really working in unison, and cross-functional teams also understanding how they can work best together. And really then it's clear prioritization of key objectives. So we know that we're all being asked to do more and more, but there is less of us available, or there is less time to do it. So being able to articulate the key objectives, those strategic imperatives, what are the critical success factors, that will help the teams to really understand the rationale behind everything, and then it will help them to really execute on those priorities. And often in that beautiful utopia, what you'll see is you get and you achieve far more than you imagined in the first place.
Thanks, Emma. Always great pleasure listening you and seeing you in Dubrovnik.